Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 18th of October 2022. Members of the public gallery should note that the Council records and publishes Council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors, councillors and those invited online attendees ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Could we please stand for the acknowledgement of the country and prayer? We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Please sit down. We have one apology for this meeting. Councillor Mackenzie is on approved leave. Do we have any declarations of conflicts of interest? Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to declare a general conflict of interest for item 16.1, Community Assistance Grants, August 2022, due to a conflict of duty. Thank you,
Councillor Crosley. Do we have anyone else?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Stevens.
I have a conflict of interest in item 16.1, and that's a general conflict under section 127, which I think is the same as Councillor Crosley. What did you say, Councillor Crosley?
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Item 3.1, adoption of minutes of previous council meeting. Can I sign that? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 4th of October 2022.
Can I ask someone to second that? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Happy with that, Councillor Wood?
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 4, business arising from previous meetings, we have none. Item 5, acceptance of late or urgent items, we have none. Item 6, notices of motion, we have none. Item 7, receiving of petitions or joint letters, there are none. Invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Is there any? No, but I do. So on Saturday morning, I had to go over to Blores Hill Mountain Bike Park. If anyone hasn't been there, it's a fantastic facility that is used by a lot of people with mountain bikes with various tracks. It was a middle of the everywhere supported event, and it was race 1 of the Shimano MTB Grand Prix. Look, it was a fantastic day, even though the rest of the state unfortunately has had a lot of rain. We haven't had too much, and the track was perfect. One of the reasons it was perfect and the feedback from the competitors was amazing was the great effort that Parks Victoria had put into presenting the track. People mightn't realise, but Parks Victoria look after 385,000 hectares of land. That does include national parks, but they only have a team of 9 people to look after that whole area. And I must say, what they presented was fantastic. And also the magnificent job done by the Gippsland Mountain Bike Club, who hosted the event, along with Rocky Trail Entertainment. It was another great event that was brought to Wellington, and I can see it getting bigger and bigger each year that it is actually at the Blores Hill Mountain Bike Park. So well done to everyone. Item 9, questions on notice. I believe there are none. Item 10.1, Mayor and Council Report, September 2022. Can I ask someone to move that, please? Councillor Rossetti.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move that the Mayor and Councillors' report be noted.
Can I ask someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Just another very busy period there, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rossetti. Item 11, Delegates Reports. Do we have anyone to do a Delegates Report? Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you,
Turn the microphone the wrong way. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to do a report on the State Council last Friday, where I attended the MAV State Council as the Wellington Shire delegate. A motion was brought up, just summarising what was probably the most important motion for us there. A motion was brought up by the Maribyrnong Council to ask the State Government to bring forward the date of cessation of native forestry in Victoria. You'll all be aware that our council sought to understand the costs and benefits of ceasing native forestry to understand the best environmental outcome with least cost. This is why we were vitally interested in the science behind the decision by the State Government to end native forestry. The motion put up by Maribyrnong actually referred to a practice which has severe environmental impacts, including threatening endangered species. And you will all recall that our council spent approximately $50,000 on FOI requests over a 2-year period to find out the scientific and environmental basis of this phase-out decision. And from the minimal relevant information received, there was no mention of environmental concerns or data after 2 years of asking and $50,000 spent. We simply don't know that this course of action is the best and can only guess that the lack of evidence provided by the state is evidence of a lack of evidence in the first place, which is very disappointing. Unfortunately, those advocating at the MAV for bringing forward that date to cease native forestry also failed to provide any evidence or empirical argument to back up the motion and their support for it. They simply quoted climate change as the reason without making the connection between their motion and any positive climate change outcome. The motion was defeated 49% to 51%, but the result reversed to 51-49 when a division was called. I'm guessing that one of the councils was happy to vote no, but when a division was called and the council votes would therefore be officially recorded, one of them voted the other way. One interesting element here is that the Metro councils had 2 votes each compared to 1 vote each for the rural councils. This likely influenced the result. I note, though, after a long review process and many arguments, the MAV will become a 1 vote per council, again, as it should be, in my view, once the governor assent is achieved, hopefully prior to the state government caretaker mode. It was a well-fought argument, that one, about a number of the city councils argued very strongly that because they have more people and a higher budget, they should have more votes. And in fact, the biggest one of those, the Melbourne City Council, actually agreed it should be 1 per council because it's actually a group of councils. It's not a group of, it's not a ratepayers representative organisation. Anyway, we put up a good argument and spoke to the negative effects of stopping native logging, which will primarily be borne by our rural communities, but also by the environment itself and the increased cost of bringing forward the date to end logging. We spoke about the significant job losses that the timber industry generates $1.4 billion in sales and output, of which $432 million was direct value added for the regions. It employs 21,000 jobs across the state. In fact, it provided these beautiful tables we're sitting at now. It will have serious impacts with bushfire, exposure to bushfire, and as we know that with climate change, it's predicted that bushfire will become more problematic. So in that circumstance, we're actually taking away a lot of the assets that the current native timber industry have to assist with that bushfire management. An early phase-out is also going to leave regional communities exposed, especially the native flora and fauna as well, to those bushfires because there's no replacement planning being done. On top of this, there's inadequate transition time for the replacement softwood plantations, and we know that around this table, trying to understand where they're going to be planted and how that's going to be planned. Mayor Michael Leaney from Ball also spoke about the circular economy and how native forestry worked in that space. And we all realised that there are some forestry practices that were not aligned with positive environmental outcomes, but banning the whole industry simply means we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Unfortunately, these arguments fell on many deaf ears. I could say people just couldn't see the forest for the trees. This is quite frustrating because so many things are being blamed on the need to combat climate change, but often there is no evidence proffered to show how the supposed solution at hand will actually achieve that end. Simply saying it's for climate change seems to be all they need to say to support all sorts of solutions with no backing evidence, which in my view cheapens the quality work that's being done by so many to define outcomes, investigate options and then choose the best course of action to achieve positive environmental outcomes, like we see with the Gippsland Climate Change Network, actually doing the background work to make sure that what they're going to do is the best outcome. As Tony Blair said to his son, he said, "Leo always says to me, 'Don't go there, Dad. There are feelings and there are facts, but right now feelings are more important.'" I'm pleased to be part of a council that is always being driven by data and science and not primarily by feelings, to be driven by the empirical, not the ideological. Hopefully more in our communities go back to looking for the facts and data and evidence rather than feelings and ideology. But, I was very chuffed to be able to represent council, and I thought we had a pretty good result considering. It's a long battle to convince people in the city of what the process should be to get to the best outcome. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Rossetti. Item 12.1, Chief Executive Officer's Report, September 2022. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Crosley.
Oops, never mind. Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Chief Executive Officer's report be received.
And can I have someone to second that, please? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Just a note there, Mayor, to congratulate the CEO on the continued important work of meeting with various stakeholders in our community and various agencies, like with the Latrobe Regional, the LVA, the Latrobe Regional Commission was a while ago, and DELP, and also with the local government CEOs and with DELP, with Cycling Victoria, also a very important area that is in our domain, and also meeting with new proponents like AusNet for the Gippsland Renewable Energy Zone project, and importantly with Rural Councils Victoria, another area that we need to keep engaged with. But probably the most important one, and I know other councillors were involved in, was attending community council conversations with the storm-affected communities. Fortunately, we dodged this storm bout, and hopefully we do in the next front that comes through. But I'm sure the community really appreciated that visit, and it's something that's going to be ongoing in our communities, as was alluded to with Councillor Rossetti, with the changes in our climate, and makes that greater impact. So thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Item 12.2, September 2022 Quarterly Performance Report. Someone to move that, please.
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes, I'm happy to move that Council receive and note the September 2022 Council Performance Report as attached.
And seconded by Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think it's pleasing to note that this report is the quarterly report till the end of September for our financial performance and operations during the period ending 30 September. Now, at this stage, one thing that's a bit down, we're about 1.6 million behind in the budget, and that's due to the grants that were received from the Grants Commission prior to the 30th of June. I think we thought that we expected to get 50% of the Grants Commission. In fact, we got 75%. So that skews our budget considerations, and it has for the last couple of years, because I think we're making some adjustments for next financial year. It's pleasing to note that we've received $312,000 in supplementary rates, and it's also interesting to note that our collections of rates for the first quarter are, I think, ahead of where we expected to be, which is great work on behalf of the staff. Of particular interest is the fact that our cash reserves are very strong and are actually up on where they were expected to be. And of course, with a large amount of cash reserves, which we're fortunate to hold, Mayor, with the fact that interest rates are going up, that's going to have a positive effect on our bottom line, because of course this time last year I think we were practically getting nothing for interest on investments, and now with it up about 2 or 3 points, it's going to really be a positive thing for this year. And the last thing I'd just like to note is that at this stage our CapEx program is on track for completion as per the budget. So again, thank you to the staff for their work today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Item 13.1, Assembly of Councillors. Someone to move that, please. Councillor
I'd like
Marr.
to move that. Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 26 September 2022 to the 9th of October 2022.
And seconded by Councillor Crosley. Too slow on this side, lads. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Happy with that, Councillor Marr? Thank you. 13.2, Biannual Audit and Risk Committee update. Someone to move that, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Stevens.
I'm happy to move that Council receive the biennial report on the Audit and Risk Committee's activities, findings and recommendations for the period April 2022 to October 2022 as attached.
And seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could actually work which way is up, it would be much better. Just bear with me.
The only way is up.
Well, not necessarily. I do apologise, Mayor. Hang on. Just bear with me for one moment and I'll find it. Pardon? I'll find the relevant page that I was going to refer to. Oh, there we are. I was going to print it out, but the print didn't work, or I didn't print it, one or the other. So it's pleasing to note, Mayor, that the Audit and Risk Committee has operated very strongly in the last 6 months. I think it's, I shouldn't big note myself because as a member of the Audit and Risk Committee, along with Councillor Mackenzie, we're the two council representatives. We have a very strong, independent. Oh, and of course Mr. Mayor, you your good self are the alternate delegate, which adds great strength to the committee as well. So that we have, of course, the majority of the members are the independent members. Mr. Chris Badger as the independent chair, and Tony Smith and Sarah Heath, who bring a great deal of experience and value to the committee. I think the committee has recently completed a self-assessment, which they're required to do every year, and that proved that everyone is happy with the way the committee's working. I probably should also have gone back and stated the fact that now this report that has to be prepared annually, I'll get that out, is in fact a requirement, a statutory requirement now under the Local Government Act, and has to come back to Council just to give an assessment of what the committee has been doing. The committee has continued its work in liaising with both our internal auditors and our external auditors, and both our external auditors and internal auditors have been quite positive in the work that they have done. The internal auditor actually carries out a number of reports each year based on a program that is basically prepared by the audit committee in conjunction with the Shire staff, and then the recommendations are basically taken back to be implemented, and that has been an ongoing job, but a lot of the recommendations have been completed, which is good news. The two matters that have really been done have been, from the internal audit point of view, the tendering and contract management report, and also the follow-up review of recommendations from previous internal audits that have been completed. There's been a review of a couple of VARGO reports and other external reports, and generally speaking, all other matters that are required to be completed by the committee have been carried out in a very positive way. And I think we heard from the chair recently in his sort of 6-monthly report. So it's pleasing to note that our committee is working very well together and is completing a number of tasks. We are engaged in a special workshop this Thursday afternoon, which will be on the very important issue of risk management, which of course over the last few years has become an even more important than ever requirement for local government. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Item 14.1, Quarterly Building Report, April to June 2022. Someone to move that, please.
I'm happy to move that, Mayor.
Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note the report of building permits issued from the 1st of April 2022 to the 30th of June 2022.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Tatterson. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. For the period of April to June of this year, the estimated value of works is just over $42 million in comparison to the last quarter of approximately $32 million. So it's certainly a considerable amount and increasing. The major projects include new training facilities at Fulham Correctional Centre, and the Guthridge Primary School new change rooms, and an office fit out with Quantum Services located here in Sale. And for the period overall, there's been 295 applications, and I just want to send a shout out and a well done to our planning team, because they're certainly doing a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. Item 14.2, monthly planning decisions, August 2022. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. May as well just leave the microphone on. I move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of August and 31st of August 2022.
And seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
I don't have that much to add. However, for the month of August, there were 75 decisions, and looking at the trend report, applications received are still on the increase, with nearly 90% of decisions being made within the 60-day period. So well done, team.
Great effort. Item 14.3, quarterly strategic land use planning update, quarter 3 2022.
And I'd like
Councillor
to move
Marr.
that again. Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council receive the third quarterly update on the strategic land use planning work program included in attachment planning projects and amendments to this report.
And someone to second, Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be brief in my report at the moment. The North Sale Developer Contributions Plan is of high priority to Council. It was formally adopted in April of 2018, so it's certainly been an ongoing project. The draft infrastructure funding arrangement has been prepared, and a final report is now being prepared for Council's consideration in the not too distant future. The MAFRA structure plan implementation was formally adopted by Council on the 17th of May 2022. Work is currently underway in preparing the strategic justification required to support the formal introduction of the structure plan into the Wellington planning scheme. The work has also commenced on the preparation of a funding mechanism to equitably apportion the costs associated with the provision of the key infrastructure required for this structure plan. And just lastly, the Renewable Energy Impact and Readiness Study, which is also of high priority to Council, particularly with the developments that we are seeing at the other end of our shire. So the primary focus of the study is to determine the readiness of key towns in the southern end, particularly around Yarram, and support new renewable energy project proposals. There is also another focus to investigate the economic issues and opportunities associated with the study and the skills that are needed to, and I guess business opportunities that are required and are on offer with the future developments that hopefully we will see. So consultation with key stakeholders and proponents is certainly advanced, with the draft report expected late November of this year, and we certainly look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. Item 15.1, Nambrok Recreation Reserve Multi-Purpose Courts Construction. Can I have someone to move that, please?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
I move that 1. Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2023020, Nambrok Tennis and Multi-Purpose Court Renewal, and 2. the information contained in the confidential contract 2023-020, Nambrok Tennis and Multipurpose Court Renewal and designated confidential under Section 3.1, Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2020 by the General Manager, Built and Natural Environment on the 7th of October 2022 because it relates to the following grounds. G2, private commercial information, being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking, that if released would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage, be designated confidential information under Section 3.1, Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2020, except that once this recommendation has been adopted, the name of the successful tenderer can be made public.
And do I summon to second that? Councillor Marr, is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Before I hand over to you, Councillor Ripper, I'd like to announce the successful tender as Clint Kelly Excavations Pty Limited. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. A background for the existing tennis court at Nambrok, netball courts at recreational reserve are in poor condition and require attention. In fact, I drove out there and had a look around yesterday, and yes, they are. So, and the project will be redeveloped, the existing 4 courts to provide a multi-purpose space to serve both tennis and netball and provide lighting for both sports. Nambrok Rec Reserve is home to the Nambrok Junior Football Club, fields 6 netball teams in Sale Netball Association across the junior and senior grades. So while the Sale Netball Association competition is held at the GRSC, Gippsland Regional Sporting Complex, and the Nambrok netball teams all train at the Nambrok Rec Reserve. The Nambrok Tennis Club have 46 active and about 13 social participants and conduct junior men's and women's programs with competitions games played at Nambrok. Now, Nambrok is a community, it's in a dairying industry area, and of course people work off the farms. So by updating this and by having lighting, that then allows parents to take their children, or if children are of the age that they're allowed to go up by themselves. It allows them to get out of a weekend, it allows them to get out on daylight saving, which they are a community, a wonderful community. I've done a little bit of investigation. The hall's used on a regular basis, and there are workers, volunteer workers that go there on a regular basis. In fact, I believe sometimes daily, just to do a little bit of work there. So communities within our Wellington Shire are very important, very, very important. We have a city, we have smaller towns, and we have communities, and they all meld together to make a wonderful community within the Wellington Shire. So to the people of Nambrok and surrounds, and we will get people coming out from Sale, friends, we'll get people coming from other of the smaller towns to Nambrok, once this is finished and they open it, to play and to meet other people. So in the end, it will be good for everyone that we have in Nambrok an updated tennis and netball courts with lighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Item 15.2, Great Southern Rail Trail construction. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Wood.
I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contracts 2023-017, Great Southern Rail Trail pavement construction work, and the remainder be read. Thanks, Mayor.
Can I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Before I pass over to Council, I'd like to announce the successful tenderer as Maffra Trenching and Boring. Would you like to talk to all 3 items once we do those?
I'll talk to all 3 once we're finished, yeah.
So we'll move on to item 15.3, Great Southern Rail Trail Bridge Replacement Package 1 Small. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2023-015, Great Southern Rail Trail Bridge Replacement Package 1, Smaller Bridges, and the remainder be as read.
And seconded by Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. And I'd not like to announce the successful tender as Telio Proprietary Limited, I think is how we pronounce it. And item 15.4, Great Southern Rail Trail Bridge Replacement Package 2, large. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2023-016, Great Southern Rail Trail Bridge Replacement, Package 2, large bridges, and the remainder be as read.
And can I someone to second that, please? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. And before I hand over to Councillor Wood, I'd like to announce the successful tender as Telio Proprietary Limited. Councillor Wood.
Thank you. The Great Southern Rail Trail commences in Leongatha and is constructed to Welshpool and extended west to Currumborough, then to Nyora. In Wellington, the trail's been constructed from Alberton into Yarram and will also link up with Tara Trail, which runs into Port Albert. This is making the one of the longest rail trails in Australia. 2 additional contracts have been advertised, one for the smaller bridge construction and rehabilitation, and other for track pavement. It's very exciting because I know a lot of people who are very keen on seeing where this goes. It's a great initiative. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Item 15.5, Unsealed Roads Eastern Maintenance Area. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained within the attached confidential tender evaluation report of Council meeting agenda for contract 2023-012 Unsealed Road Reconstruction Eastern Maintenance Area and item 2 as written.
And seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. And before I hand over to Councillor Tatterson, I'd like to announce the successful tender as East Gippsland Road Maintenance Proprietary Limited. Would you like to speak to all 3 roads at the end?
Yes, I'd like to speak to all 3 of them.
Thank you. I'll carry on. Item 15.6, Unsealed Road Reconstruction Western Maintenance Area. Someone to do that? Councillor Tatterson?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll move that one. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained within the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2023-011 Unsealed Road Reconstruction Works Western Maintenance Area and item 2 as written.
And can I summon to second that? Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. And the other unsealed road reconstruction is item 15.7, Southern and Urban Maintenance Areas. Happy to do with that, Councillor Tatterson.
I'm happy to deal with that. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2023-013 Unsealed Road Reconstruction Works Southern and Urban Areas.
And seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. And before I pass over to Councillor Tatterson, the successful tender as Bensdale Road Services Proprietary Limited. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations to those successful tenderers. It's a very significant investment that Council continue to make in our gravel road network. Council have got 1,560 kilometres of unsealed road network, so we've got a really significant amount of gravel roads that we continue to maintain, and this reconstruction works ensures that we keep our road network up to a really good standard. And congratulations to the staff, and we look forward to seeing those works undertaken to ensure that we meet our obligations to maintain a good, healthy, safe road network.
Thank you, Councillor Tatterson. Item 15.8, Materials Supply Panel Tender. Can I summon to move that, please?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
I'd like to move that 1, Council receive and consider this report and all attachments pertaining to this report, and 2, Council accept the schedule of rates for material supply for road maintenance for a 2-year term with 2 extension options of 12 months to be made available solely at Council's discretion as outlined in the confidential attachment as submitted by Whelan's Group Investments Proprietary Limited, A1 Asphalt Supplies, SAMI Bitumen Technologies Proprietary Limited, Bairnsdale Road Services, McAllister Earth Moving, Bairnsdale Quarries, RP and JM Orchard, Yarram Quarries Proprietary Limited, Olsen Sand and Gravel Supplies Proprietary Limited, K and RJ Matthews Quarries Proprietary Limited, JP Suppliers, Granite Rock. And I will take paragraph 3, if I may, Mayor, as read.
And someone to second that? Councillor Stevens, just check if you're awake. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. You can second that. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
I have nothing to add to that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Item 15.9, Plant and Equipment Supply Tender Award. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that 1, receive and consider this report and all attachments pertaining to this report, and 2, accept the schedule of rates for plant and equipment supply for road maintenance for a 2-year term with extension options of 12 months to be made available solely at councillor's discretion, as outlined in the confidential attachment as submitted by Environmental Services Group Proprietary Limited, Patriot Environmental Management, Eastern Constructions Proprietary Limited, Bairnsdale Road Services, Whelan's Group Investment, Fowler's Asphalting Proprietary Limited, McGuinness Earth Moving Proprietary Limited, Maffra Trenching and Boring Proprietary Limited, Gippsland Directional Drilling and Trenching, RP and JM Orchard, LSC Services and Excavation, McAllister Earth Moving, LSK Contracting, The Mining Proprietary Limited, Conway's Earth Moving, Olsen Sand and Gravel Supplies Proprietary Limited, MJ Keenan, Tilt Tray Services, and Mayor, I'd like to take para 3 as read.
And can I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Item 16.1, Community Assistant Grants, August 2022. I believe we have 2 councillors with a conflict to this item. If you could please leave the room once you tell us your conflict.
Yes, that I declare that I have a general conflict of interest at this council agenda due to an item of conflict of duty.
Thank you, Mayor. I declare that I have a general conflict of interest at this council agenda item due to a conflict of interest.
Thank you, councillors. Duty.
Can't have a conflict of interest due to a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens.
I'm not doing very well today.
And can I have someone to move that item?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Rossetti.
I move that Council approve the allocation of community assistance grants for August 2022 funds as detailed in attachment 1-CAG, which is Community Assistance Grants acronym, August 2022, recommendations and applicants being notified of the outcome of their applications. And
someone to second that? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's $146,676.45 of applications in there. It's not actually really that generous of us to give the money because ultimately it's the ratepayers' money going back to the community. But what is fantastic about this money is it actually supports so many volunteers in improving what goes on for all of our community. So the value is the 146,000 adds to is quite enormous. From things like the first thing that popped out to me was the Wines of East Gippsland Nambrok Food and Wine Festival, but the Hayfield District Vintage Machinery Group with their Machinery Rally, which is a cracker event, that one where they have all of the old machinery that used to thrash the barley and wheat, or even machines that used to take the corns off the corn cobs. And these are all just mechanical things with belts and whistles and all sorts of things. Gippsland Swimming Championships, City of Sale to Stedford, Lock Sport, Business and Tourism, fireworks, Maffra Triathlon, which I won't be competing in, Sale Music Festival, the Yarram Chalk Art Festival, the Gippsland Cricket Club net replacement at Merloo. Merloo's another one of those great communities that just, they keep running ahead and saying, look, help us if you can, but we're going to do all that stuff anyway. Dargo Cemetery Trust, that's dear to my heart, Facility Refresh, Mobile Cricket Club, turf covers at the Hayfield Cricket Club, and the Stratford Bowling Club Pride. So there's some great projects in there, and thank you to the council for supporting the grants there.
Thank you, Councillor Rossetti. We'll just wait for Councillor Stevens and Crosley to re-enter.
CEO. Great pleasure, Councillor.
We have no gallery, so I'll just check with the CEO if we have any online comments.
None, Mayor.
In that case, I'll declare the meeting closed at 6:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Well done, Mayor.